Changing Your Life in 6 Months, a complete audiobook. Chapter 1. The moment you decide everything is different. There is a moment. You might have already had it. Maybe you are in it right now. It is that quiet, uncomfortable stillness where you look at your life and feel the gap between where you are and where you know you could be. It is not dramatic. It does not come with thunder or lightning. It comes in the shower. It comes at 2 in the morning when you cannot sleep. It comes when you are sitting at a desk doing work that does not feel like yours, or standing in a room full of people and feeling completely alone. That moment is not a crisis. That moment is an invitation. Most people respond to that invitation by closing the door. They tell themselves it is too late. They tell themselves they are too old, too broke, too far behind, too tired. They find 10 reasons why the life they dream about is for other people. And then they go back to their routine, and the moment fades, and they carry it quietly like a stone in their chest. But you are here, and something in you is still listening. This audiobook is for the person who is ready to answer that invitation. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when you have more money, more time, more confidence. Now, with what you have, with who you are. This is about 6 months, 180 days, not a lifetime. Not a complete reinvention where you wake up as someone unrecognizable. 6 months of deliberate, honest, consistent action that compounds into a life you actually want to live. You can do a lot in 6 months. You can lose significant weight or build real muscle. You can learn a new language to conversational level. You can start a business that makes real money. You can save thousands. You can finish a book, earn a certification, fall in love with your own company, heal a relationship, leave one that is hurting you, develop a spiritual practice, quit an addiction, build a morning routine that changes how every single day begins. You can become someone who wakes up excited instead of drained. None of that is fantasy. All of it is documented, repeated, proven. The only question is whether you are going to be the person who does it. Before we go any further, let me tell you what this audiobook is not. It is not a collection of motivational quotes strung together to make you feel good for an hour. It is not a list of habits from billionaires that require resources most people do not have. It is not going to pretend that your path is going to be easy, or that willpower alone is enough, or that positive thinking in the absence of action changes anything. What this audiobook is honest. It is built around the psychology of real change, the mechanics of building momentum, and the truth about what actually derails people who start well but do not finish. By the end, you will have a framework, a real one you can use starting today. Let us begin with the most important thing. The reason most people do not change is not that they lack motivation. Motivation is everywhere. You have felt motivated 100 times. You have started things. You have made promises to yourself that felt iron solid in the moment. The reason most people do not change is that they have never built a relationship with discomfort. They have never learned to stay in the room when things get hard. They treat difficulty as a signal to stop rather than a signal that they are growing. Change lives in discomfort. Every single version of a better you is sitting just on the other side of a feeling you have been avoiding. The discomfort of discipline, the discomfort of saying no, the discomfort of looking at your finances honestly, the discomfort of hard conversations, the discomfort of being a beginner at something new, the discomfort of sitting with yourself without distraction. The people who change their lives do not feel less of that discomfort than you do. They have simply changed their relationship with it. They have learned to greet it as evidence, evidence that they are in motion. Evidence that they are alive and growing rather than comfortable and still. Your first job before anything else is to make a decision about discomfort. Not a decision to seek it out recklessly. A decision to stop running from it, to stay in the room, to see it through. That decision made honestly and held firmly is the foundation of everything else. Chapter 2. Who you are now and who you are becoming. Here is something that most self-help books do not tell you. You cannot build a new life on top of an identity that contradicts it. If you see yourself as someone who is bad with money, every financial strategy in the world will eventually collapse. If you see yourself as someone who always quits, the new habit will be next on the list. If you see yourself as someone who is not the kind of person who runs marathons or starts businesses or meditates or speaks in public, then even when you do those things temporarily, you will find your way back to who you believe you are. Identity is gravity, it pulls you home. So before we talk about what to do, we need to talk about who you believe you are. Because the most powerful shift you can make in 6 months is not behavioral, it is identity level. It is the slow, deliberate, evidence-based process of becoming someone new in your own mind. This is how it works. Every action you take is a vote cast for a particular version of yourself. When you wake up early, you cast a vote for the person who honors their commitments. When you go to the gym on the day you do not feel like it, you cast a vote for the person who does hard things. When you close the app and open the book, you cast a vote for the person who invests in themselves. When you choose the meal that serves your health, you cast a vote for the person who takes their body seriously. No single vote changes the election, but over days and weeks and months, the votes accumulate. And one day you look in the mirror and the person looking back has been shaped by 10,000 small decisions made in private. That person is different, that person is new, and that new person is the one capable of living the life you have been imagining. So you need to get specific right now, not vague, specific. Who do you want to be at the end of 6 months? Not what do you want to have. Who do you want to be? Write it down, speak it out loud. Get it out of the abstract and into language. I am someone who wakes up before the world gets loud, who moves their body because they respect it, who spends money with intention, who creates instead of just consuming, who says what they mean, who shows up even when it is hard, who takes their health seriously, who builds things, who reads, who grows. Say it like it is already true. Not because affirmations are magic, but because your brain is constantly taking cues from the story you tell about yourself. If the story changes, the behavior eventually follows. If the behavior precedes the story catches up. Both directions work. You are going to use both. Now let us talk about the gap between who you are today and who you are becoming. This gap is not a problem. This gap is the work. The gap is what the next 6 months are made of. Most people look at the gap and feel shame. They feel like the gap is evidence of failure, of inadequacy, of something fundamentally broken in them. That shame is heavy and it is counterproductive. Shame does not build habits. Shame does not sustain effort. Shame paralyzes. Curiosity is better. Look at the gap with curiosity, not why am I so broken, but what has kept me here and what would it take to move? Not what is wrong with me, but what systems, beliefs, environments, and patterns have been working against me, and how do I start working with myself instead of against myself? You are not the problem. You have been operating inside systems that were not designed for the person you are trying to become. Over the next 6 months, you are going to redesign those systems. Chapter 3. The Architecture of 6 months. 6 months sounds like a long time. It is not. It disappears. The people who fail to change in 6 months are not the ones who tried and fell short. They are the ones who kept waiting for the perfect moment to begin, who treated every stumble as a reason to start over instead of a reason to continue, who underestimated how fast 6 months would pass and overestimated how much motivation would carry them. So we need to talk about structure, not rigid, suffocating structure that turns your life into a checklist. Intelligent structure, the kind that frees you from having to make decisions about your identity every single morning. Break your 6 months into 3 phases. Phase 1 is the first 2 months. This is the foundation phase. This is where you do less than you think you should, but you do it with absolute consistency. You are not trying to become a completely different person in 60 days. You are trying to prove to yourself that you keep promises. You are building the most important thing you can build, which is trust in yourself. If you say you will do it, and you do it, and you do it again, and you do it again, you are laying down neural pathways that say, I am the kind of person who does what they say. That is everything. That is the foundation everything else is built on. In phase 1, choose 3 things, not 10. 3. 3 behaviors you are going to practice daily or near daily that align with who you are becoming. Choose them based on their leverage. What behaviors, if done consistently, would make the most difference in your life? For most people, it is something related to the body, something related to the mind, and something related to their finances or their craft. Move your body, read or study, track your spending or work on your skill for 30 minutes. These are not revolutionary, they are foundational. And foundations have to be laid before walls go up. Phase 2 is months 3 and 4. This is where you build. By now, the 3 foundation behaviors are beginning to feel less like discipline and more like identity. You have had the experience of showing up for yourself through discomfort. You have evidence. Now you add layers. You increase the intensity of your exercise. You deepen your study. You take the first real action toward the larger goal you have been working toward. You have a difficult conversation you have been avoiding. You make the investment in yourself you have been putting off. You start the thing. Phase 3 is months 5 and 6. This is the momentum phase. This is where the compound interest of your decisions starts to become visible. Your body has changed. Your mind is sharper. Your confidence is not the fake confidence of pep talks, but the real confidence that comes from having kept a promise to yourself for 120 days. Now you operate from a different baseline. The things that felt hard in month 1 feel like the floor. You have raised your standards just by living them. Now you push. This is also the phase where most people plateau. They reach a level that is noticeably better than where they started, and they unconsciously decide it is enough. The urgency fades because the pain that drove them to change is gone. Do not let this happen. In months 5 and 6, recommit. Go back to why you started. Look at how far you have come, and ask yourself what the next version of you needs to do that the current version is still avoiding. Chapter 4. The body is not separate. Let us talk about your physical life, because nothing else changes at the same pace when this part is neglected. The research is unambiguous. Regular physical movement improves mood, sharpens cognition, reduces anxiety, increases resilience, regulates sleep, boosts energy, and changes how you see yourself. There is almost no pill, no supplement, no therapy, no hack that delivers what consistent movement delivers, and yet most people treat it as optional, as something they will do when they have time, when they are motivated, when things settle down. Things never settle down. Time is not given. It is made. In the next 6 months, you are going to move your body at least 5 days out of every 7. Not because someone told you to, because you are becoming the kind of person who honors their body. Because you understand that your energy, your mood, your clarity, your self-respect are all downstream of what you do with your physical self. It does not have to be a gym, walk, run, swim, cycle, dance, lift weights in your living room, do yoga on your kitchen floor. The form matters less than the consistency. Start with something you will actually do. Build the habit first, refine the form later. Here is what you are going to feel in the first 2 weeks. Sore, tired, possibly a little discouraged. Your body is waking up. Keep going. By week 3, something shifts. Your energy starts to change, your sleep improves, you start to want it. By week 6, missing a session feels wrong. That is the identity shift beginning. That is the vote count accumulating. Nutrition is the other half. You do not need a complicated diet. You need a simple, honest relationship with food. Eat mostly things that grew somewhere. Drink water instead of drinks that claim to be better than water. Cook more than you order. Eat slowly enough to notice when you are full. Stop using food as your primary emotional regulator. These are not extreme prescriptions. They are reasonable, sustainable shifts that compound over 6 months into a body and an energy level that you will barely recognize. Sleep is the third pillar and the most underestimated. You cannot change your life while chronically underslept. Sleep is where memory consolidates, where muscle repairs, where emotional processing happens, where the brain clears out waste products that accumulate during waking hours. Treat sleep as a non-negotiable. 7 to 9 hours, a consistent schedule. A dark, cool room, no screens for the last hour before bed. This single change alone will elevate every other area of your life. Chapter 5. The mind you are building. You have a relationship with your own thoughts. Most people have never examined it. They take their thoughts as facts. They believe every fear their brain generates. They accept every self-limiting story without question. In the next 6 months, you are going to become a student of your own mind, not in an obsessive, navel-gazing way, in a practical, useful way. You are going to learn to watch your thoughts rather than be swept away by them. You are going to develop the capacity to ask, is this thought true? Is this thought useful? And if the answer to both is no, you are going to practice letting it pass without acting on it. This is the foundation of everything. Your thoughts create your emotional state. Your emotional state drives your behavior. Your behavior creates your results. If you want different results, you have to be willing to examine the thinking that produces them. Journaling is the most underrated tool available for this, not journaling in a flowery, aspirational way. Journaling in an honest, exploratory way, 5 minutes in the morning. What am I thinking about? What am I afraid of? What am I avoiding and why? What would I do today if I trusted myself completely? 5 minutes of honest examination every morning will change how you move through the rest of the day. You will catch the patterns. You will see the recurring fears, the recurring excuses, the recurring stories you tell yourself that keep you stuck. And once you can see a pattern, you have a choice about it. You are no longer living inside it automatically. Reading is the other practice that will transform your 6 months. Not reading as a performance of productivity. Reading because every book contains someone's lifetime of learning, compressed into a few hours of your time. You can absorb in a week what took someone else a decade to discover. That is extraordinary leverage. Read in the direction of who you want to become. If you want financial freedom, read about it. If you want to build a business, read about that. If you want to understand your own psychology, read the books that illuminate it. If you want perspective on the human condition, read the great literature that has survived centuries because it is true. 30 minutes a day. That is 1 book every 2 weeks. That is 26 books in your 6 months. 26 concentrated downloads of other people's mastery. By the end, you will think differently. You will have frameworks. You will have language for things you previously felt but could not articulate. You will be undeniably someone who has invested in their own mind. Chapter 6. Money, time, and what you actually value. You are going to have to look at 2 things honestly in the next 6 months, and both of them will feel uncomfortable: your money and your time. These 2 resources are the raw material of the life you want. How you use them right now is a direct reflection of your current values, regardless of what your stated values are. Not the values you say you have, the values your behavior reveals. And those 2 things are often very different. Most people say they value their health, their family, their growth, their freedom, but then they look at their calendar, and it is full of things that do not serve any of those. They look at their bank statement, and it is full of purchases that bring 15 minutes of pleasure and nothing of lasting value. This is not judgment, this is human. The default settings of modern life are designed to consume your time and extract your money. Social media is engineered to keep you scrolling. Subscription services accumulate like barnacles. Convenience has a cost. Entertainment has a cost. The question is whether you are choosing these costs consciously or just drifting into them. In the next 6 months, you are going to spend 90 days tracking where your money goes. Every dollar, every pound, every unit of currency. Not to punish yourself, to know, to see clearly. Because you cannot optimize what you cannot see. And most people have only a vague sense of where their resources actually go. Then you are going to cut the things that are not serving the person you are becoming. Not brutally, not joylessly, but honestly. The subscriptions you forgot you had, the food you waste, the impulse purchases that fill a moment but not a life. You are going to redirect that money towards something that matters. An emergency fund, an investment, a course, a tool for your craft, yourself. Time is the same. Look at your week. Be honest. How many hours are truly recoverable? The hours you spend doom scrolling, mindlessly watching things that do not move you, refreshing the same apps hoping something changed in the last 4 minutes. What if even half of those hours went toward the thing you say you want to build? That is not deprivation, that is a trade, a conscious chosen trade of something low value for something high value. And over 6 months, the difference in what that trade produces is staggering. Chapter 7. The relationships that will shape your 6 months. You cannot talk about changing your life without talking about the people in it, because here is something that research confirms repeatedly. You become an average of the people you spend the most time with. Not because you are weak or easily influenced, but because human beings are deeply social creatures whose nervous systems are calibrated to synchronize with the people around them. Their standards become yours. Their vocabulary becomes yours. Their beliefs about what is possible become yours. Look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Are they people who are growing? Are they honest with you? Do they challenge you? Do they celebrate your wins without resentment? Do they hold you to a high standard? Do they believe in something bigger than comfort? If yes, you are fortunate. Pour into those relationships. If not, you have some harder questions to sit with. This does not mean you need to abandon everyone who is not on a personal development journey. It means you need to be deliberate. It means you need to add people to your orbit who are living the kind of life you are working toward. Mentors, communities, peers who are ahead of you in the areas that matter to you. People who make you feel like your ambition is normal rather than arrogant. Find them in books, find them in podcasts, find them in courses and workshops and communities online. Seek out one person every month who is doing something you admire and learn from them in whatever way is available. You will be stunned by how much access is available to people who simply ask well and show genuine interest. And then there are the relationships that are draining you, the ones that diminish you, the ones built on old versions of yourself that you are outgrowing. These are the hardest conversations of your 6 months, because the people who knew the old you sometimes have a stake in you staying the same. Change can feel threatening to those who are not changing themselves. You do not have to cut people off dramatically or cruelly, but you do have to be willing to change the terms, to invest differently, to be honest about what you need, to let the distance that comes from growing be okay rather than something you manage by shrinking yourself again. Chapter 8. When you fall, which you will. Let us talk about the inevitable, because this is where most people's 6 months ends, not in failure, in giving up after a stumble. You are going to miss a day. You are going to eat badly for a week. You are going to make a financial decision you regret. You are going to have a stretch of days where the discipline evaporates and the old patterns rush back in. You are going to feel like a fraud and like you have ruined everything and like you might as well start over next month or next year or when things are different. This is going to happen. Plan for it now. Here is what you need to know when it does. Missing 1 day does not break the habit. Missing 2 days is the beginning of a pattern. Your only job when you fall is to fall without catastrophizing and get up immediately. Not after you have punished yourself sufficiently. Not after you have rebuilt your motivation to perfect levels. Now. Today. The next available moment. The difference between the people who change and the people who do not is not that the changers never fall. They fall constantly. The difference is how long they stay down. The ones who change have learned to compress the gap between falling and getting up. They treat a stumble as data, not as a verdict. They ask what happened, what they need, what they will do differently, and then they return to the work. Self-compassion is not weakness. It is the most strategic thing you can practice. Research on behavior change consistently shows that people who respond to failure with self-compassion are more likely to make better choices afterward than people who respond with harsh self-criticism. Beating yourself up does not make you more disciplined. It depletes the emotional resources you need to try again. Be kind to yourself with the same ferocity you would show a close friend who was going through the same thing. You would not tell your best friend who missed 3 days of exercise that they might as well give up. You would tell them that it is okay, that they can start again today, that 3 days is nothing in the context of a lifetime. Tell yourself the same thing. Chapter 9. The Compounding Life. We have been talking about 6 months, but what you are actually building is not a 6-month transformation. You are building a new baseline, a new floor, and that floor, once established, becomes the foundation for the next 6 months and the 6 months after that, and the life that accumulates across years of that kind of living. Compounding is the most powerful force available to you, not just in finance where we talk about it most, but in every domain of life. Every workout you complete makes the next one more likely. Every book you finish expands the context for the next book. Every honest conversation deepens your capacity for intimacy. Every morning you honor your own routine trains your nervous system to expect that of yourself. Every time you save money instead of spending it impulsively, you strengthen your relationship with your future self. In 6 months, these effects are beginning to be visible. In a year, they are undeniable. In 5 years, they produce outcomes that look miraculous to people from the outside but feel inevitable to you because you watched every single day of how they were built. This is why the 6 months matters beyond the 6 months. You are not just trying to lose weight, save money, or build a skill. You are trying to become someone who compounds. Someone whose daily choices are investments. Someone who thinks in long cycles. Someone who defers the small pleasures for the larger ones. Someone who is not optimizing for today's comfort but for tomorrow's freedom. That person is available to you. That person is not some idealized version of a human being you can never be. That person is who you become when you take the next step, and the step after that, and the one after that. Chapter 10. The Life on the Other Side. Let me describe someone for you. It is 6 months from now. They wake up before their alarm, not because they have to, but because they have built a morning they want to enter. They move through their routine the way water moves through a channel it has worn smooth. They are not fighting themselves anymore. The discipline that felt like a cage at the beginning feels like wings now. They look at their body in the mirror and they see evidence of what they have chosen. Not perfection, evidence. The kind that only comes from showing up for yourself consistently over time. They sit down to work and they sit with focus. Not perfect, sustained, interruption-free focus, but real engagement. The kind that comes from a mind that is being exercised and fed and rested properly. They look at their bank account and they feel something they did not feel 6 months ago. Not rich necessarily, intentional, in control, like an adult who knows where their resources are going and has chosen it. They have conversations they could not have 6 months ago because they have built enough self-respect to hold their ground and enough self-awareness to hold space for others. They are not finished, they will never be finished, but they are on a path that feels like theirs. A path they chose, not one they drifted into. And the difference between drifting and choosing is enormous. It is the difference between a life that happens to you and a life you build. That person is you 6 months from now. If you decide today that the gap between where you are and where you could be is not a source of shame, but a source of direction, the invitation is still open. The door is right there, and all it takes to walk through it is the next right action. Not the perfect action. Not the action that requires you to have everything figured out. The next one. The one that is available to you today, in this moment, with what you have. Go take it. A final word. You picked this up for a reason. Something in you is ready. You did not find this at a random moment. You found it at the moment when the distance between who you are and who you know you can be has become too great to ignore. 6 months is not a long time to live. It is a long time to practice, and what you practice, you become. The only question left is whether you are going to practice becoming someone you are proud of. I think you are. Now begin.